Welcome to our podcast. Today we're going to be talking about LGBTQ plus health. Specifically, we are going to be talking about education. We're going to be talking about laws and restrictions. We're going to be talking about mental health and how these areas affect people within the community. The first thing that we're going to be talking about is education. We think it's really important to talk about education, especially considering because since we've started taking this LGBTQ plus studies class, we've learned so much about the community and the different things that they face and that they struggle with. One thing that we all were really surprised about is that not everyone is required to take this class. And we find it really important to take this class.
Yeah, I did a little bit of research. I did some on the actual lacrosse page itself. Looking at the general education program, like obviously lacrosse stresses it in the sense that we have to take so many credits for our gen eds just to even be able to graduate. And one of the gen eds is liberal studies. And within it, it talks about minority cultures or multiracial women's studies. And it lists a bunch of different credits, a bunch of different classes that you have to take. And not many of them talk about sexuality and gender. There's a lot about race, which obviously is another big issue, a big thing that we need to talk about. But it's so easy for people who are trying to take gen eds to just overlook this topic.
You don't have to take it, which seems like it needs to be something that it should be taken. Like, why am I forced to take a history class rather than something that's going to make me a better human being?
Yeah.
So within, I don't know if the curriculum needs to change within our gen eds, but yeah, sure, we have that outlet where you can take these classes. You can be a WGS major, you can be a minor, whatever, but you don't have to be, or you don't even have to take the class. So some people are like, I'm not taking that because I don't want to. Mm-hmm. But it should be you should, because you need to know about it.
Yeah, I think it's a little ignorant too, people within the LGBTQ plus community are everywhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? You are going to interact with people of the community in your daily life, and I feel like having the knowledge of how to being aware of people's pronouns, and being aware to ask their name, mm-hmm. For people who have changed their name and who have different pronouns than the stereotypical he, she pronouns. And I just feel like I've become so much more aware of these things since taking this class, and I think it would really benefit a lot of people. I even think about doctors too. We've learned a lot about doctors and the healthcare system and how they engage and treat LGBTQ plus individuals, and just kind of how they kind of have control over their decisions about their bodies, and their treatments and stuff. Mm-hmm.
I also feel like it's partially due to I feel like everybody that I've had contact with has if I've asked the question of if they've had a class like this in high school, or even their sexual health talks with their parents or their teachers, it's never it's never in depth or anything like that. It's just kind of this is one way of how it is, this is how it is, and then you need to figure it out yourself. And it's kind of just okay.
It's very binary,
yeah.
It's very even sexual health, it was all through a binary lens. I know we've talked about this before, but I didn't learn anything about, just the different genders and the different sexual orientations, and how that plays into sexual health for different people,
or the resources that you're able to find, and how easy it is to find things. And you also don't realize your privilege. The amount of people that don't realize the privilege they have until they get to college is insane. Mm-hmm. Privilege is a thing that you're introduced, you're born with. And people just don't realize that.
And bringing it back to college, how many so some of you are RGS majors, minors?
Yeah.
Yep.
When I came into college, I was biology major, exercise sports science minor. I was this is all I want to do. And then I took WGS 100 as one of my classes, and I was this is fun. I like this stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I found out that it was a minor, and it was also a major. And when I decided to change my minor to WGS, everybody's what can you do with that? It's a thing.
Yeah.
Like, what job can you get with that? And it's, people don't take it seriously, especially people that are majors, WGS majors or RGS majors, like, what jobs can you get? So I did a little bit of digging on it, I'm gonna read off of it. It says, the benefit of a gender studies major is that you understand how people interact based on gender and the dynamics of, that can broaden your career options quite a bit, and then you use it as a layer of learning. So people will go on to be doctors, it's like, they get that higher level of education because they understand more about different groups of people. And it says others choose to combine their gender studies majors with minors or second majors, and it broadens and specializes your skill set and your career options.
So if you have two people that have the exact same major, but one person has like a minor that's like kind of similar to their major, and another person has a minor in WGS, most likely that place is going to pick that person with the WGS because more consumers are going to want to interact with them.
I find that a lot in psychology too. And for psychology, you need a minor. And I like a lot of people know exactly where they're going in psychology and exactly like what path they need, and they don't branch off. And I'm like just so lucky, I feel like, not really knowing what I'm doing or what I want to do, because then I can take classes like this and get the experience and be like, oh, okay, this was cool. Maybe I will switch whatever minor or a specialty or however that works. There's 80,000 different variations of just education in general.
Specifically with psych too, there's such a need within like psychology for like mental health and like other avenues like within like the LGBTQ plus community.
I also found an interesting statistic. This kind of ties into the laws and restrictions that we'll talk about later, but it ties into teaching at like a younger level on
USAFacts.org. I found information, and it says restrictions on school teachings about gender and sexual orientation. Alabama, Florida, and South Dakota each passed laws prohibiting teachers in schools from instructing students about issues of gender or sexuality.
And I've heard a lot of things of like, it's not just like pay is a big thing, but a lot of the schools are what's the word? Restricting or like stopping different books and different topics. And that's why teachers now, like at the beginning of the year, they have to put in all their lesson plans, and then I guess like the superintendent, the principal, and like the school board have to approve everything. And if they don't approve something, they can go to the teacher and be like, you cannot teach this.
Yeah.
Specifically, you cannot teach this. And the teacher's just like, I thought it was an important thing. It's an important thing in my life, but I guess I can't teach my 9th graders these important things that are going to come up in your life.
Mm-hmm. Right, and we didn't learn about any of the history or topics within the LGBTQ plus community. And you would think like, yes, like society has taken a lot of steps forwards in terms of like awareness and just rights and all that stuff for the community, but
the academic setting is still very restrictive.
Yeah, and I just can't even imagine like not being able to like learn about this stuff. Like it took me until I came to college till I was actually educated on this stuff. Like this year I learned about intersex individuals. Why is that not
So it's introduced way before.
Yeah, like I can't believe like it's taken me this long, and like I could have, done my own research, but when you're not aware of those things, it's like kind of like, how do you even begin?
You don't really have that like itch to dig deeper.
Yeah,
it's just kind of like
I feel like a lot of high school and middle school educations, like now they're like, oh no, we're teaching that, but it's more so like one day we'll just tell you about it, really just broad, and then it's a check, and then there we go. I mentioned it. I'm not gonna. If you want to ask questions about it, that's not me. Like I'm not answering. But it's as soon as you want to know something about a heterosexual couple, got it.
Exactly.
That's filled in every that's a part of every curriculum. Like God forbid.
I feel like that's what they're using the specific days for. Like we celebrated the coming out day by doing chalk around the clock tower. And I just would have never even realized it, but I'm not 100% sure, I don't know the data, but I'm sure that some educators are using that day as like, okay, this is the one day we're gonna talk.
And we'll barely
about
talk about
everything.
Exactly.
We'll skim it.
We'll skim it. We'll not tell you the history of anything.
Yeah.
The
We'll not give
importance
you
behind
the
what it
outlets
means.
to feel like you're able to come out. We'll be like, well, no, we're gonna make this a non-safe place, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Exactly.
Even like this year, like Trans Remembrance Day,
Mm-hmm.
like so, like this is just me, like in my like own ignorance, like I didn't know that was a day, and of
I didn't
course
know
that's a
that.
I
day,
didn't even
like
know.
you know what I mean, like.
Yeah.
But how else would we have
You never see
known
it in
about that
mainstream media.
besides,
Either.
yeah, besides taking this class?
Or like you get those brands like Nike and stuff where they're doing like a Pride collection during Pride Month just to get the money.
Oh yeah.
Like,
And
they're
it's
not-
just adding a rainbow to
They're
something.
not doing it because they actually support it. They're like, people are gonna buy this stuff because it's June.
Yeah.
I work at Olive Garden, and we did Pride shirts during Pride Month, and they were cute little forks together, little knives, and they were like serving up Pride, and we got to buy them, and they're $25. They weren't gonna come until August.
What
You
sense
ordered
does
them?
that make?
You ordered
So
You
I
were
went
2
ahead and I
months
just
late.
I made a bunch of t-shirts, and then we literally had people that would come in and be like, "I don't want you serving me," and I'm like,
Like you have a Pride. I'm like, oh yeah. No. Can I get someone else?
Someone should bleep this out of the podcast, but fuck. Fuck those people. That's fucked.
See, I experienced something similar to that at my job. Not in the sense like they didn't provide any Pride stuff, but like I myself as a gay man, like you know, Pride Month, I was like, you know what?
My month.
We're gonna wear a rainbow fucking button, and nobody's gonna say a goddamn thing. I put it on, and the district manager is like, you can't wear that, and I'm like,
The hell I
excuse me? Like, and she's like, you can't wear that. That doesn't represent our company. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right
It's the
now?
lack of education.
Exactly.
It's the lack of education. Like if you got a basic thing, you become a basic human. Like you have human decency.
Exactly.
Like you don't walk around and be like, nope.
I feel like that really kind of tees into like the laws and restrictions of everything is like the lack of education then goes further into the people who have the power to make
Yes.
laws or restrictions and different like protocols that you have to go through, and then it impacts everyone
Yeah.
below them because they have this power, and it's just like
it's like you
okay.
start young and you're not getting educated on it, then those people, God forbid, are somehow getting their way into power, and they're just fucking everywhere.
And restrictions like that, it's very, very detrimental to the education of LGBTQ plus youth, because like even in terms of, like tying into health, like regarding like sex education, none of us here have ever have any of you guys heard a fucking thing about LGBTQ plus like sex?
Nope.
Like never talked.
You know what they say? Watch porn.
Literally, that's what I was fucking
That's
told.
what they say.
And it's like,
So
okay.
if you want to learn about watch porn, why the
Yeah.
fuck do I need to watch porn?
Yeah,
why can't
you just
why
tell
can't
me?
you just
Like,
tell me?
Yeah, no,
Tell me to
I.
be safe.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there was one set, like either class or it was one talk, and they were like, yeah, like technically there are like homosexual couples, but they didn't explain anything. They were, yeah, but they didn't explain anything. They were just like that's a thing, and then they moved on to I don't even know, probably something.
And
No,
see
I'm
stuff like
thinking-
that, when these youth like mature and they start engaging in sexual activity, they don't know the safe practices.
They have no idea. And then they get
Like-
pregnant and then they don't know their outlets when they get pregnant. They
Exactly.
don't know that there's things that
Pregnancy,
are different.
STDs,
Yeah.
STIs,
Well,
all of this.
When I was in middle school, when we started talking, people were like, oh, we don't want to get pregnant, abstinence. And then there was a girl next to me who was a lesbian, she's like, I can't get pregnant because I only have sex with girls.
Yeah.
Well, not in high school. And they're like, oh, we don't talk about that. I'm like, but you don't want to get pregnant. They
Well,
can.
even-
So let them
Exactly.
do their thing.
I even
Literally.
think about like
Just like asking partners that you're engaging in sexual like actions with, like, oh hey, when were you last tested, or like do you have any like STDs or anything? Nothing wrong with that, but like there should be like there's such a stigma around that. And even like dental dams, does anyone know, like, no, I feel like no one talked about that, and that's a huge
Just protection.
yeah, protection.
Well, especially-
You only learn how to freaking put a condom on by
Yeah.
them putting a condom on
On
a
a
banana.
banana. They
And
don't
I
show
was
you
like,
birth
for
control.
the man,
Yeah.
for the man, it's like, is that what, talking about like the whole thing about sex, oh, it's about the man, like.
Yeah, and like how condoms are like, advertised for like
Yeah.
being thin. you don't feel it.
You can't feel it, so you can feel everything else.
Exactly, it's
Like,
more
oh,
advertised towards the male
Yeah,
audience.
it's like
Yeah.
everything that pleasures them, not being like protection. This is protection.
God forbid the female orgasm. You know,
Females can orgasm?
yeah, right.
Right?
What?
Like that's insane.
Well, or
No.
even like learning different things about like male genitalia.
Yeah.
Like I didn't know until college that I'm pretty sure it's right. A guy's G spot is in the
Their
butt.
ass.
Prostate.
Yeah, in the butt. I was like, there's something in the butt. But like, it's just very different feelings.
They
But
don't
we're
talk
only talking about the penis.
Yeah.
The
Just like-
only thing you gotta know is the penis goes in and it makes a baby.
It's what it's
Literally.
supposed to happen,
Yes.
apparently. And I'm
But
like,
no,
See,
there's
us bottom
no-
bitches are left in the dark.
There's no sense of like pleasure beyond the male penis. That's it.
Yeah.
It's like you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
And then that kind of goes back into like female orgasms, is because a lot of females can't just orgasm off of penetration.
Most can't.
Most of them, yeah. There's those like, I don't know the data, but it's like a bunch, whatever. And like then guys or girls don't, or non-binary, we love them all, don't know like how to make their partner feel great.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
I mean,
so
I
then
think
you're
that-
just like, oh, okay, am I broken? Like,
I mean,
what's
and
going
it
on?
ties-
Literally, the idea of sexual pleasure seems to be centered like primarily around the male orgasm.
Yes, absolutely.
Like with no variation of it.
Well, and then bring that back into community sex, like the community sex. Most same-sex couples have better sex because you know your own body. Like the
Yeah.
female knows the female's body,
Period.
and you can reciprocate that on your partner.
And if you say something about, like, if you're in a same-sex couple and you say something about, like, that doesn't feel good for me, then you just
You're like,
realize,
"Got it."
well, you got it, and then you realize you're like, oh, okay, wait, was I doing this or was I doing that? And then, like, you just have healthy conversation about it.
Yeah.
But
Whereas-
that doesn't happen in a
Yeah.
heterosexual relationship. It doesn't.
Well, it's supposed to,
Yeah, but it
we
doesn't.
are not taught about any of this.
We're not talking
It's
about it. 'Cause
just-
it's just
Or even
the male
how
gets
to-
pleased and we're good.
Yeah. I don't know, like, be like, oh, actually this
Isn't
isn't it.
This
Like,
isn't
this,
it.
something needs to change,
Yeah.
you know?
Which is sad because that means our lack of education. And sex ed is literally just teaching like the genitalia and the reproduction system, and they mention protection, but nobody actually talks about like same-sex sex and intercourse, and how like it's not just about the actual sex itself, it's about that connection that you build, and we don't talk about it, and it becomes all this, I don't know about it, but I'm gonna create laws about it because I don't like it. I don't like the thought of it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna create these laws, even though I don't know what I'm talking about.
Doing a transition into our next topic, laws and restrictions. I did talk about how there are some restrictions in some states regarding teachings about gender and sexual orientation. However, there are also states that are expanding the rights for transgender and LGBTQ plus Americans, specifically youth, and I just wanted to share that with you guys.
Maryland passed a new law in 2022 expanding school non-discrimination laws, meaning that the schools cannot discriminate against students based on their gender identity. And this also expands these laws to private schools that accept state funding, which I think is really important. And Vermont passed a law allowing individuals to amend their birth certificates to reflect their gender identities.
So it's so tough because, like, gay marriage has officially, become legal as of a couple years ago. And for now,
Yeah.
that's where I'm getting to. Yeah, like, these laws are expanding, but there's also, like, I was looking at the healthcare restrictions, and it really enrages me, like, especially, like, I looked a lot at, like, the healthcare laws for transgender children, and in 2022, Alabama and Arizona both passed laws preventing transgender children from receiving gender-affirming care. Both states, like, defined gender-affirming care differently, but both states prevent transgender children from receiving puberty blockers or gender-affirming surgery, and Alabama prevents hormone therapy for transgender children, but Arizona allows it. So what do you guys
The
think? Do you
choice
think
is
like we're
learning.
moving forward or backwards, or like where do you think like this is going to go?
Definitely over the course of the past decades actually, it's been like we seem to be taking 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. In some cases, several steps back, and then we have to make all that progress again. Like in terms of like what you were just talking about, like puberty blockers and stuff like that. Like we just watched a documentary not too long ago in class talking about trans youth going through the process of transitioning, receiving gender affirming care, puberty blockers, all of that. And I mean, like you just mentioned, all these laws are just not like they're starting to come up more and more because there's pushback from the right wing community. Like they don't want our community to exist. Like they just want to pray it away, as a lot of people say, pray the gay away, or whatever the fuck they like to say. And like they keep trying all these different tactics to try to like basically enforce the idea that they can get rid of our community merely by not talking about it, preventing any like healthcare whatsoever, education, anything like that. It's their way of trying to be like, we don't like you, you're not welcome.
Yeah. You have control over you. You know, I feel like it all centers around the control, and it's like these people making these decisions are what, heterosexual white men?
Yeah, that
Mostly.
that
They're-
saw
yeah.
that were like, what is it called, sheltered as kids. They weren't when they went to college, they didn't go to parties, they didn't do anything. They were just like the nerds that just sat and did nothing and didn't like
Experience
interact
life.
with
human
human
Yeah.
beings.
Well, it's like how did these people get to like make?
Decisions for the country as a whole.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
And it's like the
bullshit.
same person copy and paste it again and again and again. Like you look at the house and it's like they're different people. Like they're all like you look at like what they believe in. They all believe in the same exact things, and you're like, nothing's gonna get done.
Exactly.
Nothing's, and then it's not.
Like you said that they think it's gonna make it go away. You like setting restrictions on someone isn't gonna make them not do it. It's gonna make them do it the wrong way. Like you're putting people in danger.
Well, I think we're coming for a huge, like I think if things continue to keep going the way they are with like Roe versus Wade and all these restrictions that they're trying to pass and just the attacks on people's rights, like I think there's gonna be a huge uprising.
Oh, there's
Oh, yeah,
definitely
there's gonna be.
And it's like we've already
Yeah.
seen it happen with the
You
Black
pissed off women. You've pissed off the LGBTQ plus community. You've pissed
off people of color.
You pissed off people of color. You pissed off disabled people. We coming for you.
Yeah.
Sorry, but we make up a majority of your country, so we're coming.
I mean, the main saying, like when it was all fresh and everything, it was, you're not banning abortion. You are banning safe abortion.
Yeah.
So the death rate or whatever is going to be skyrocketing because people are going to be going to not great places because they had to.
They're gonna have people that are traveling to get abortions
Well,
because
yeah.
they can't. Some people cannot have a kid. They will literally die if they have a kid.
That ties into the like healthcare too. Like it is so hard to find good healthcare. You know, good healthcare like doctors and just like having access to medication or puberty blockers or anything. Like it's so tough. And then
Like it's just gonna cause
Unsafe things.
Yeah.
Like you block puberty blockers, fine. I'm gonna go find them somewhere else, and they might I might not know everything about them, and I'm gonna take them anyways, and then they're just gonna hurting me because I'm not doing it the right way. Like, what does if I want to change my gender, how the fuck that doesn't impact you?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not related to you. Just because you're my doctor doesn't mean that my change means anything to you. Like, let me live my life.
Literally.
But
You're
they're
going
making-
to not. I'm sorry.
No,
Going to non-credible sources for medications, like it opens you up to like this huge, like a variety of different problems because like what if they decide, like what if they're using a different medication than what would normally be prescribed by a credible healthcare provider and is like replaced with this other medication that has a shit ton of side effects and like they put it off as like, oh, like those don't exist, but it'll do this for you. And it's like, okay, yeah, sure, I can receive gender affirming care, but like, for example, like fucking, you know, they start receiving care and next thing you know, they've got all these other, like a bunch of other fucking health problems and then fucking right-wing people are like, see, this is what gender affirming care will do to you.
No.
And it's like, no, bitch, this is what happens when you fucking illegal, like make the safe ways to do it
Yeah.
illegal. Because then we turn to this unsafe shit, and then next, fucking we're dying because you motherfuckers want to put
Or you have to
restrictions on.
look at like that's it. When like I don't want to bring up COVID, but like when people died with COVID, but not from COVID, they're like, oh, COVID. And they were blaming it on COVID. Okay, it wasn't all COVID. It's the same thing. If people are dying when they're getting that care, but from something else, they're like, that's what killed them.
Exactly.
That's what killed them. We don't need to do it.
I think you mentioned something really interesting. You're talking about like when you start taking unsafe medication, this perpetuates like substance abuse. And I found a statistic that broke my heart. I found it on thriveworks.com. It was written by Taylor Bennett. And they said that those in the LGBTQ plus community are 2.5 times more likely to experience depression, anxiety, and substance abuse compared to heterosexuals. And I just thought, holy crap, that's heartbreaking. And
Like tying it into mental health, which we're gonna talk about, like that's just so sad.
It doesn't.
And
It's
this
something
ties
that
into-
needs to not happen.
Yeah, like, and especially like, I think mental health and laws and restrictions kind of connect too, because with people like putting all these restrictions on people and their opportunities live their true authentic like lives and be their true authentic selves, like this increases the depression, anxiety, and suicide rates. I mean, people are dying at an alarming rate, like especially like even like attacks on like transgender individuals, like their average lifespan is like 30 years old.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
You know what's sad is when you were mentioning like the laws that were getting passed, and it's so sad that we're getting so excited over one state doing it.
Yeah.
Like it's something that should be happening in every single state, but we're to the point where it's like it's not happening. So when one state does it, we're like, okay, like there's hope, there's something. Like it should be something that's like, oh, that's natural.
Yeah.
Like accepting everyone for who they are and letting them change their birth certificate to match who they like believe to be. This should just be something that's normal.
Yeah.
Like why are you trying to fight me on that?
The saddest part is I didn't know about the birth certificate until Caitlyn Jenner on the Kardashians. She was like explaining something to Chris, I think, and she was talking about how far back she could go. And she said I was able to change the birth certificate, and I would have never even known, like, but there's that type of representation that just needs to be more. There needs to be more people, even if you're not in the community yourself.
Allies.
It needs to be
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. Yeah, like it just needs to be.
Or especially when you come to college, like there's an individual in my English class who, like the first day of classes, we were doing roll call, and the name that's on their canvas doesn't match the name they go with. And they were like stressing like, please call me by this, you can use any pronouns, I don't care, but like don't use that name. And the amount of looks that they got from the people in my classes, I was like, okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Like, cool with me. And I asked, I was like, do you mind me asking why you haven't changed it yet? She's like, it's a pain in my ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even Will talking about how he had to publish in the newspaper when he did it, right?
Yeah.
He had to publish some, just like a saying, a statement.
Like changing my name.
Yeah.
Which I don't
get.
I feel like
It just
that's
makes
so,
everybody
That
else's.
makes
So then
sense.
everybody goes,
Susceptible to
oh,
all
that's right,
sorts
you're the
all
one that.
sorts of fucking hate crimes.
Yeah,
that's what
you're
I'm
the one that's
saying.
changing your name. How about, no, let me introduce myself as the name I'm going with, rather than being like,
Exactly.
oh, I did see that in the paper, your dead name is this. Like,
Exactly.
I don't want anyone to know my dead name if I was changing my name.
And a way to just change it like a little bit is after it's done, giving them the choice to like contact the newspaper and be like, hi, basically world or whoever it is, my name is yada yada.
Yeah, that's
Like,
I
and
didn't
just
know that one.
producing or
the word.
pronouncing yourself as who you are.
Yeah,
who
what?
you were born to be.
Well, I think about, birth certificate, your driver's license, your credit
You have
cards,
so
you
many-
have your name for your address, so much stuff that
Your
you have
social
to
security.
go back and change, and it's like
Well, that's yeah.
it's such a hard
is-
process for a reason.
Yeah.
Like they make it so hard.
It's like, so, and it's in an order. So you have to do social security to get your passport, and then you have to have, like, sometimes you have to have the passport to get your identification. And if it's not on your identification, you can't open a bank account, which means that you can't go to credit cards, you can't save up to live life.
A lot of people can't get
the world is not-
insurance.
Yeah.
Change
Oh,
their
shit, I
names.
didn't even, yeah.
Like,
Oh, credit score and everything.
credit score, that's what you
Like,
can't,
I mean,
you
there's-
can't save up to get a house, you can't
Oh,
get a loan
there's-
to get a house.
Oh God, I wish I would have looked it up.
But there was an article that I read about an individual who changed their name, and they had a great credit score, and they went back, like, the whole thing happened, they changed their name, cool, they went back, and their credit score restarted.
Yeah. Because
And
it
they're
was a
like, oh, it's
different
under this
whatever.
name.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, yes, I understand that, but I've changed my name, here's all my forms. No,
We have this name, so if you want to use that name, you can. But
You
then
can
it's like,
get
oh,
one
my
ID
great.
loan.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's
The
like,
IDs don't
or
match.
sometimes it's hard to get your old medical files because it's underneath your dead name. Like, it's they make it such a big issue. It doesn't
Literally,
need to
one
be.
stump in the fucking process and your whole world is turned
Exactly,
upside
and
down.
that's terrible that you should have to live with someone that you don't feel is you.
Yeah.
Because, like, the people that get called their dead names, like, it's detrimental to them and their mental health. Like, it's like, no, I don't want to hear that, but sometimes, like, yeah, my dead name is this because I need those files,
Mhm.
but they don't want to bring it up.
Yeah.
But our government makes everything so damn difficult
Yeah.
for some reason
Yeah.
that people feel the need to, put themselves down. And it just spirals to other things.
It is crazy though, how easy it is, like when, I've only witnessed it in heterosexual couples, but like when the partner takes the last name, that's literally like you bring your ID in, you sign, I think it's maybe like 3 different pieces of paperwork, and you're automatically like, you're just whatever the last name is.
Yeah.
But to be who you were born to be and you're finally feeling yourself, 85,000 different pieces
Yeah.
of paperwork, and you have to do it in this order, and if this is wrong, then you have to go back to that, and then you can come back here, and I'm just like,
It's the easiest for a woman to take a man's name.
yeah.
For a man to take a woman's last name, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
For a woman to keep her last name, it's hard. For a woman to hyphenate her last name, it's hard. But as soon as it's, oh, I've married a man, sign here,
Yeah.
boom, here you go. Here's your new license, here's your new social security card, it'll come in the mail,
Yeah.
everything's changed, you're fine.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, yeah, that's my maiden name, I got married. Oh, cool, we'll change that right now. Do-do-do-do.
It's not a big deal, but it's just like, why is this thing not a big deal? But
But
this
once it's out
is,
of your tiny little bubble, oh,
it's
we're screwed.
Yeah.
We're screwed. You can't do it.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that. Because why would a woman want to keep her last name? What? Why? Terrible.
It's awful.
I think that's why it's so important with so much discrimination and struggles and backlash and everything that individuals in the LGBTQ plus community go through and experience. It's so important to have a support system, to have a chosen family. We spent, a good portion of class talking about just the importance of a chosen family,
Like being able to talk and have these resources, 'cause that's a lot of shit. That's a lot of shit to deal with, you
Yeah.
know,
That is important to have because I did a little bit of digging. LGBTQ plus youth are if they happen to reside within a family that is not accepting of their identity, their sexuality, gender identity, anything about them, they're kicked out into the street. And this kind of ties into health, safety, and all of that. These youth that are kicked out are often forced to engage in sex for survival, prostitution, and then also tying back into health. These youth that are put in these situations, they are more likely to turn to substance abuse, like drugs, alcohol, anything like that. But then also in terms of survival sex, it opens them up to obviously STDs, STIs, but it also opens them up to the possibility of being drug into the sex trafficking industry because they don't have a support system. Where a lot of LGBTQ plus youth, when they are forced to engage in sex for survival, they are often forced to migrate to bigger cities where they do not have a connection to anyone. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody is aware of their existence. So it's easy for, say, if they were to find somebody to engage in sex with for money, food, shelter, anything like that, it literally takes little to no effort for this individual to basically kidnap them and sell them as a sex slave.
Yeah.
And then, the family, what's the family gonna do? They're the ones that kicked them out in the first place.
Yeah.
They're not looking for them.
which is
In these places, nobody knows who these people are. Like, nobody knows who this kid is that went missing. Like, they're not even aware that they're missing to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like, it's been it was a huge issue in like, I think it was Los Angeles.
Oh yeah.
Because that's like,
Oh,
you know, like the city where everybody can make it big, the whole
Yeah.
dream that everybody perpetuates and puts out there for everybody to, like, you know, strive for. A lot of the LGBTQ plus youth like flock to these major cities, LA, New York, Miami, all these places, but these are also hotspots for sex trafficking. And then these kids go missing, and then
What's that one street in?
The drug street?
It's like the huge it's like the huge strip in Los
In Los
Angeles or in California or something.
With drugs?
Heroin Alley or something. Do you know what I'm
That's
talking about?
probably like a nickname.
Yeah.
Like, but there's
But
so
I don't
like
know,
that's
yeah.
it's huge sex trafficking and huge like everyone is on drugs there, you know, and like I can't even imagine like the percentage that are LGBTQ individuals, you know, like living there trying to survive, you know, and like just like
I think it could be Skid Row.
yes, Skid Row, that's it.
Yeah, it says over 4,700 injection drug users live in the neighborhood.
Yeah, can you find a statistic on how many are part of the community? Yes, just for the shits and gigs.
Yeah.
Well, even the
4,700
even
people.
the strip, even La Crosse is a hub for sex trafficking.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's not
It's
not
spread
that
now
far away.
everywhere.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
even my hometown of 4,500 people, there was literally a house, ironically enough, on Elm Street that is under investigation by the FBI for human sex trafficking. Yeah, and my mom lives like 2 streets away from this
Yeah,
place.
we had a like Chinese foot massage place that turned into a Trump 2024, you know, clothing place where you could go. It was
Okay.
straight up sex trafficking. You walked in and like they expected it to be white men with their wives, but people knew about it, so it was white men that had their wives, and they would bring them in. Women would never come out.
That is
You know, you're okay.
have you seen
Yeah,
that
but, like,
Asian massage place downtown? Like, I'm like getting stressed out.
I'm telling you, there's some places I feel like you could walk in and it's you're not coming out.
Exactly, it's a
If you're coming out, you're coming out with a bag over your head in the van.
Yeah. Well, that's even the hate crimes on LGBTQ youth and individuals. Like
Yeah.
just really scares me.
I could not find the one about Skid Row itself, but
I mean, all of that kind of goes into, I researched a little bit about intersectionality. And on internationaljustice.org, international justice is defined as like understanding discrimination and inequality, not as the outcome of individual intentions, but rather as systemic, institutional, and structural. And then it's understanding that everyone has their own unique experiences of discrimination and oppression, and we must consider everything that we can marginalize people, like that can marginalize people: gender, race, class, sexual orientation, physical ability.
It can be what they look like, how they act. If they live in specific parts of the neighborhood, then you just like stay away from whatever. And it's just like you don't know what anybody is going through. It's just like, what?
well, I mean, it all like stems from, you know, right at the beginning we talked about it's the education, the lack of education that you get. The individuals don't understand that they have a support system behind them. And hello. And then there's the laws and restrictions that are placing them like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Then they end up questioning themselves and like their ability to live. And then they don't have these outlets. They become homeless. They become hopeless. They're like, oh, there's nothing for me.
Yeah.
And it's like,
It's so
Then
multifaceted.
that's why it's so much of the homeless community is a part of the LGBTQ.
Well, it's
Because
like,
they just don't understand what's out there for them.
yeah, they come out as themselves, whatever that is to them. They could possibly get kicked out by their family. They have to figure out, and if they don't find a chosen family or someone who supports them,
They're out on their own.
they're out on their own. They don't know what's happening. I would like what comes to mind is like if they're immigrants or even not immigrants and they speak a different language, out on their own, can't understand anybody. They get into these awful situations, and then everybody judges them because they're in this awful situation, and they don't realize that if their family was educated enough to know what was going on, even to like the very small like penny worth of education on it, it's just like it completely changed their whole life, and now they're stuck in a situation that they could possibly not get out of.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what to even do with that. So
Makes me just think of like the importance of education even more. Like these are such.
This is everywhere. This is all around us. All the stuff that we've been talking about. You can find this in anywhere in the world. And this is like why like education is so important. People people be like, oh, like you're like a gender woman's minor, or like, oh, RGS. Or like this is
Yes,
so important. Like this is something that everyone should know about. Everyone should take this class. Like
Just the 100 level course.
Yeah.
You don't got it. Like I'm not,
You don't have to be a
have
minor
to be a minor or take another class. Just take the baseline.
Mm-hmm.
Where they give you a little bit of everything, and you're like in that safe space to ask questions.
Exactly.
And like the people that have like that curiosity, like I did, they'll continue.
Yeah.
And I am damn happy I
Yeah.
did. Because once you continue, you're in classes with the same people.
Yeah.
Again and again, and you're in class with people who want to be there.
yeah.
Like RGS 100, like sometimes there's some people that like don't want to be in there, that are just taking it to take it. But you get to these classes and like 300 level classes, and everybody wants to be there and actually cares about other humans.
Yeah.
So you get into those good conversations, but it's sad that we're not even making sure that everybody's taking that baseline course.
I think this ties into intersectionality too. Like maybe my thought process will be maybe a little scattered, but we're talking about like representation of like people of the community, like people who have, people who are neurodivergent, or people who have disabilities, or, people of color who are also a part of the community. Just like this representation that I feel like people don't normally see, and being in this class, like you get to like engage with individuals like in these specific, like who have these intersectionalities, and like it's like it's how do I describe this? Like it just makes it more like
it's mind blowing, honestly.
It's mind blowing. It's great exposure. Like people need to have this, and you can like, for the people who are like uneducated and like just very close-minded, like these are humans.
Yeah,
like these are people.
These are your classmates. These are the people. These are your coworkers.
Yeah.
The people you are going
These
to
are
be
your
interacting with.
siblings.
Yes.
Like these are your professors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just like, like the exposure of this. Like it's so important to engage with people who have different intersectionalities.
It is also super interesting that at least in my schooling before college, it was the whole golden rule. You treat people how you want to be treated.
Yeah, that shit.
Everyone is unique. You want to be unique.
Mhm.
What was the other one? You never know what's going on in the person's life, so you can't judge a book by its cover. That's what it was. You can't judge a book by its cover. But then we get out into the real world, and there's so many people that do judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Whether that
Take
is
one look at you and like, I don't like that.
Yeah, and it's just like why we were taught when we were in first grade to not judge a book by its cover, and you go out into the real world, and then you're like, I don't like you because you look like this. I don't like you because you have to walk with a walker or something, and you don't look old enough to walk with a walker, or even ageism, like the older community, like no one really cares, it seems like. And
Well,
it's
crazy how much like in middle school they stress be yourself,
yeah.
be who you are,
Yep.
be this. Like I don't know if your guys in middle school had it, but like the corny "be you" poster, by
Yep.
the counselors. It's okay. I'm trying to be me, and you're shitting on me for it.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Like I'm being exactly who I want to be, but it's just because you don't like it and you're not comfortable with it and you're closed-minded.
Yeah.
I can't be it. Like if that's inflicting you, that's your own problem.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Like I'm saying, the people that think it's a problem have a problem within themselves.
Yeah.
People
Like,
are
it's-
just so quick to like put labels on
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
people. Like I think about even like you and I. Like someone may look at you and be like, oh, he's wearing earrings, you know, but you would look at me and maybe not realize I'm pansexual.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like people are just so quickly
It's
to
a-
put labels on people, and it
Mhm.
just.
I've
fucking
had
pisses me
people
off.
like I've had people try to
And I love your earrings too. They're great. I just side note.
I've had people, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically say, like, I've had people ask me flat out, like, they're like, well, not even ask, they're like, oh, so, you seem to be dressing more feminine. You wear high heels, high waist earrings. You must be trans. And I'm like, no, I'm just a feminine gay man. I like the pretty stuff. And I'm like, oh, well, you're enforcing the stereotype.
really at fucking Mimbletown. I was standing, a place that's supposed to be welcoming to like everybody within the community. I was literally just sitting there on my phone waiting for the next forum to start, and this person walks up to me, and they literally asked me that, like they literally said, "Oh, are you trans?" And I'm like, okay, first off, you don't just walk up to somebody and ask.
that's
Like,
so-
that's like walking up to somebody and asking what's in your pants. It's
Oh,
none of
yeah,
your
that-
fucking business.
yeah.
Like, what I identify as, if I'm comfortable enough to share it, I will share it.
Yeah, I'll tell
But
you.
like, and then to like say that I'm like enforcing a stereotype, like, I'm just trying to live my motherfucking life. Like,
Yeah.
if you got a problem with that, go the fuck away.
I mean, I think the biggest problem with that is like,
The lack of, like, people only believe what they can see.
Exactly.
It's like, I
Yeah.
see this, and that's what it is. I see this, that's what it is. It's like, oh, if a trans individual looks more feminine, that's a woman. I don't care.
Yep.
Like, that's a woman. That's a man.
It's
Like,
binary,
yeah, or it's, you're not disabled because I can't see it. And it's like, okay,
yes, I am. It's like, if I can't see it, I don't believe it. And if what I see, I believe.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like, even like, yes, like, a lot of heterosexuals, like, are the ones that are, you know, discriminating and being judgmental and all that, and just, like, they see what they see, whatever.
But it's also in the community, like point blank period right there. Like it's in the community, you know?
And in class, when we were talking about intersectionality, even Will was like, we don't realize we've become such a community to incorporate a bunch of things. We don't realize that even in our bubble of, yeah, we've incorporated whatever, because it used to be LBG, that was the thing. Like, they've incorporated more plus, and the plus sign and whatever. They don't a lot of people don't realize that because you're this way, that doesn't mean that you're not discriminating against those of color, discriminating against
Yep.
those of different ethnicities than you. Like,
Yeah.
it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Kind of put a little close on this. That is why taking LGBTQ plus studies is so important, because you can become educated on all the stuff that we've talked about today, and like, I think we are all better off.
Yes,
Better
better human beings.
Better human beings.
Not to
more
say we weren't great
open-minded,
human beings coming into this. Not saying that, but we are probably better than
more educated,
Exactly.
more open-minded.
We just realize things
Yeah.
and notice things that
Yeah, here's
not
these-
everybody notices.
So what's the main message? Take these classes.
Mhm.
Educate yourself.
Seriously.
If you have the
Yourself.
option to, why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Educate yourself.
Literally. Like you guys said, even if it's not your major or your minor, just be a fucking decent human being.
Take it.
Have some consideration.
Exactly, period.
Understand that the people around you are not like you. Okay? Understand that.
And
And sign
that is digging deeper.
Woo!
Bye.
That's fun.
That was
That was
hilarious.
fun.
I love that. That was a good one.